Hey, what's up, everyone? Airball here, and it has been a long day, and I want some comfort food. And this Niv Mizzet Reborn deck in Historic is my comfort food. This is the deck I like to play the most when I just want to screw around on the ladder. Powerful cards, control style, but not really games that take forever. So if you haven't seen this deck before, um, it's built around the card Niv Mizzet Reborn from War of the Spark. One Wooburg, you get a 6/6 flyer, which, is not great on its own, but you get to look at the top 10 cards of your library, and for each color pair, exactly pair, two, choose a card that's exactly those colors from among them and put those cards in your hand and the rest on the bottom. So, Niv Mizzet comes with deck building constraint. You want to put a bunch of cards from the Ravnica guilds into your deck. You want a good diversity of them so that you'll be able to hit many cards off of your Niv Mizzet when you cast it. And you also want to make sure that those cards play well with Niv Mizzet once he hits the battlefield. So the game plan is basically resolve Niv. If you can resolve Niv and control the board until that happens, then you're likely going to win. It's just the win condition of choice in the deck. So in order to help us do that, we have a bunch of controlling gold cards, which are great. We have Lightning Helix, which is a great removal spell in the format. We have Vanishing Verse, and we have Deafening Clarion. All three of those cards, and Maelstrom Pulse, I suppose, as well. All three of those cards do an excellent job of keeping the early game under control, dealing with problem creatures. Against auras, we have against auras and things that outscale our damage-based spells, our damage-based removal, we have Culling Ritual, which is especially nasty. Not only does it kill the creatures that the auras are attached to, but it also kills the auras themselves, which is particularly relevant against hexproof or indestructible tricks. If your opponent has a Selfless Savior in play, they can sacrifice it to save their Spirit Dancer, but at the very least, you're killing all the auras. So you're never too far behind, and it also produces a bunch of mana as well, so it's a good comeback mechanism. So that's our removal. In terms of our anti-control package, we have our card draw package as well. We have 4 copies of Expressive Iteration, which is one of the main welcome additions to the deck, which is pretty good at keeping up on cards. We have Drown in the Loch, which against the graveyard synergies in the format can be pretty good. A lot of the decks in the format are growing their graveyard effectively for you. So this can be either a 2-mana Terminate or Literal Counterspell if you have the mana to cast it. Which is pretty sweet. Against those decks that are using their graveyards, we also have the 1 copy of Clothis. This is actually a surprisingly good card. It doesn't end games that quickly, but it puts a clock on the opponent, and a lot of decks have serious trouble removing an indestructible enchantment. You're never going to turn this on, probably, but just having it sit on the board and wipe up relevant cards from the graveyard is pretty important as well. Also important to survive the early game. There's not really much counter magic in the deck beyond Drown in the Loch, so we have 6 hand hate spells, 4 copies of Thoughtseize, which needs no introduction, and 2 copies of Break Expectations, which effectively do their best impression of it. So target player reveals all cards with mana value 2 or greater from their hand, and you get to exile that card. And they get to draft a card from the Break Expectation spellbook to replace it. But truth be told, none of them are really all that good, unless they're playing like an artifacts deck, literally. And even then, they're just kind of mopey cards. 2 copies of the Celestis. The deck does need some amount of mana fixing and mana ramp. Fairy Time Raveler also makes his one-of appearance as well. And so, importantly, when you're playing a 5-mana Wooburg spell in Niv Mizzet, you need a good mana base. Historic does have all of the different triomes that we've had printed so far to support it. So often you're not getting your early plays down. You're spending the first 2 or 3 turns just playing your lands tapped to make your mana work. But you do get also rewarded with Territorial Kavu, which is a 2-mana XX, where X is equal to the number of basic land types among lands that you control. This is often just a 2-mana 5/5. And it also fixes your hand by looting away, or by rummaging away, I guess, and also deals with problematic cards in the opponent's graveyard as well. Sideboard contains a few just a few things to shore up the control matchups mostly. We have Tormod's Crypt as a 0-mana, no-color spell to deal with graveyards. Dovin's Veto, an important one of that you can hit off Niv Mizzet. Priest of Fell Rites is pretty sweet as well. You can put this into play, and if the opponent counters your Niv Mizzet, then you can just basically rebuy it with the Priest of Fell Rites itself. We've got some counter spells. We've got Kaya to deal with graveyards. We've got another Deafening Clarion and 2 more Culling Rituals to deal with the creature matchups as well. So the deck's pretty sweet. It's one of my favorite decks to play. Let's hop into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, so here we are on the draw. with a pretty decent opening hand. We will get the caster iteration on 3. No, we won't. We don't have red for that. So we are... Actually, most of our hand is kind of uncastable, come to think of it. So let's see. What do we want? I think we have to just assume that we will draw red. We have Break Expectations to slow down the opponent. Any red source lets us cast Kavu and Iteration and unlocks the hand. We have Niv in our opening hand. I think this is okay. We need to have a little bit of faith. Swamp. And Thoughtseize. Yeah, of course. So this is another reason to, I think, aggressively keep opening hands in Historic. Thoughtseize decks are incredibly prevalent, and mulliganing hurts you more against them than against most other kinds of decks. So we draw Teferi Time Raveler off the top, which is probably the worst draw in the deck. Okay, and this is a discard deck. So what do we want? I think Break Expectations is probably bad. It's just 1-for-1 trades, which is exactly what the opponent wants to do. It's actually a little worse because it gives them a card in response. So I think this is fine. I think we want to get rid of this. All right. I suppose now I will cast Thoughtseize. If they have like Davriel or something, then we'll want to take that. No Way Out. Inevitable End. Enchant Creature. I think Enchant Creature makes us just ignore it off the top, like right off the bat. They have Turgid, which makes a lot of sense. We really don't want to be forced to discard a Niv Mizzet and give them that back. Although actually Niv Mizzet has no hits for them. And No Way Out is just a Mind Rot. I don't know. It's either the Mind Rot or the Lantern, right? And I suppose I would like the Mind Rot, because if they play the Lantern, then at least Teferi will be able to hit it. But we are short on playables. We have not drawn the land we needed yet. Never mind. That's pretty good. So we can either buy Giganta here, which is like not as bad as... What did they foretell, by the way? What's foretold in this matchup? Or in this deck? I don't know. Kavu just gets nailed by Inevitable End. But they don't have the mana to cast it yet, and it stuffs the Disciple, so alright. If they have land, then, you know, this is just a removal spell. They've cast Murder on the Kavu, which is fine. Skull Raid. Opponent discards 2 cards. If fewer than 2 cards were discarded this way... Okay. So... Probably we're just... Like, Teferi can bounce the 1/1 to draw a card, but he's not anything super special. I think we're just tossing Teferi in Expressive Iteration, because we don't want to be caught with our pants down on cards. This would have been a reason to buy Giganta, but here we are. Looks like they don't have the mana. Alright, so... Cast Expressive Iteration first to see if there's anything that we want to loot away with the Kavu. We are missing any color mana? Yeah, this is blue, black, green, white, red. So no, we're not missing any colors of mana. I guess we'll take the Clarion into hand. And I suppose I want the Zagoth Triome. Is there anything in their bin that I don't want to... that I don't want there anymore? I think the answer is no. I think we're just going to start swinging with a 5/5, and I'm going to pitch the Clarion, I think. Fine Thoughtseize, that's not bad. Again, I don't like the 1-for-1 trades, but I'm a little concerned about what this card is. Let's just go ahead and do this. They have their own Thoughtseize. Okay, so I think it's got to be Thoughtseize. The Expressive Iteration is just too good, and if we can protect it, then that's great. Turgid is still quite a ways off. Alright, well, we drew another discard spell off the top, because that's what these decks do. Yeah. Just gonna keep attacking. Happy to discard this Breeding Pool, I think. Fine Niv. And we can just buy Giganta here. Okay. Same deal, I think. If we can attack with the Kavu, and if we draw untapped land, then we get to slam the Niv, which is honestly pretty great. Giganta's not super relevant except as a card. Okay, I buy it. Maelstrom Pulse is not really what we're looking for. Expressive Iteration is fine. We don't have the means to cast another Expressive Iteration this turn. Oh boy. None of this stuff gets cast this turn, in fact. So Kroxa is actually quite, well, interesting against Turgid, I suppose. We don't really want to be sacrificing it with Turgid in play. However, our graveyard is going to be quite full. I think I want the Kroxa. Like, it's a card that we actively want to discard, and we'll throw away a Maelstrom Pulse. So if they hit us with, like, another Elderfang Disciple here, then we just get to dump Kroxa. This is also okay, I suppose. It's Lightning Helix, oh my god. Yeah, okay. We do need to find another red source in order to be able to bring back the Kroxa. Pitch Farika's Libation, okay. It's another red source. Not super exciting. They are slowly but surely making their way up to Turgid. I think I am happy to recur Kroxa here. I don't think anything in our deck really cares about Delirium, so there's not much I really want to keep around. I suppose I should have kept, keep Niv Mizzet in the bin. Although we don't have the Priest of Fellrights in the main deck, right? No. Okay, this is still fine. We still get the Kroxa trigger. And they have to discard a Liliana. Alright. So Turgid's Lantern, sure. If we draw untapped land, then we can probably Kroxa plus Maelstrom Pulse, which is sweet. I think I want to keep my stuff for now. I'll take the damage. Celestis is also not bad. So if we bring back Kroxa, then they're literally just drawing off the top. But we can just Celestis plus hit the Lantern. We can also just Niv, realistically. And that will give us a bunch of cards to discard to the Lantern if that's what we decide we want to do. Yeah. If we Niv, then it dies, I suppose, which is a reason not to do it. Okay. I think I've settled on this. And I'll pitch the Lightning Helix to the Lantern, maybe? We'll see. Yeah, Kroxa MVP against these decks. Just escape cards in general, obviously. Great against these decks. Oh, this is fine. So they're not even going to untap the Lantern with their mana. We could even sacrifice the Kroxa, honestly, which would not be too bad. But we wouldn't be able to bring it back. I'm fine, I think, discarding Lightning Helix. I think I do want to just start putting a bunch of stuff in the bin. We'll start with an attack. I guess if we had the Lightning Helix, then we would have won. Yeah, we're just going to slam Niv here. This is fine. If we find Lightning Helix now, we win. Vanishing Verse also does it. It doesn't win the game, but it kills the Lantern, which is all that really matters. And yeah, cool. So our deck grinds pretty well against these slow, dirtily, discardy decks. Okay, so what do we want? I feel like Priest of Fellrights is really good. If they have, like, Soul Shatters or Kill spells for Edgar, then that's okay. That would be an okay one. Honestly, I don't think that there's much that we realistically want to bring in. I suppose Despark hits the Lantern, it hits Turgrid. Meh. They didn't show us any of their own graveyard interactions, so I'm not a big fan of the Crypt. I do think that we really don't want these hand hate spells. At least, certainly not all of them. Veto is just like a 1-for-1 trade as well. Not really into those. Clothis, I think the black-based deck will have a... Well, they did show us Freaka's Libation, which could force us to sacrifice it, but I think that's still okay. I think I'm just going to trim. Yeah, I'm going to trim all these Thoughtseizes, I think. I'll bring in the Veto, and I'll bring in Kaya. And... Edgar, I guess? Okay. Okay. On the draw, on the draw, of course, with gas. Like, these 3 cards, MVPs in the matchup. We're definitely keeping this. Lead with... I suppose it doesn't actually matter. This is almost perfectly symmetrical in terms of our mana base. I guess I want to maximize the coverage of my lands. So that would be the Triome and the Foundry in case I'm casting the Kavu. That'll hit all 5. I don't want to cast the Kroxa yet. I want to discard that. I don't want to expose it to something like Cling to Dust or something like that. Sure. So we can slam Kaya, which is like just card disadvantage. Probably should not have kept Kaya in, honestly. If I cast Expressive Iteration, do we have to go to discard? No. We do have to hit a land off the iteration, though. Alright. Actually, I'm not really sure. Yeah, let's just get this cast before it gets discarded on us. Priest is pretty good. We'll take that one. And we will play the Ketra Triumph. We do need an answer to Thorgrid's Lantern. I'm probably just discarding Kaya here, honestly. She's just card disadvantage. So we can... actually, maybe I probably should have discarded Kroxa. No, we don't have enough to recur him yet. I want to keep my white untapped in case I want to cast the Priest. Lightning Helix is actually not bad either, but we won't get to cast it, unfortunately, if we're going to play this Triome. So Davriel's going to make us discard the Kroxa, which I think is okay. We really, really want... Yeah, this is fine. Okay, let's take, I think, the Lightning Helix to hand to be able to finish off the Davriel. Next turn, yeah. Sure. Okay, so next turn we'll be able to, if they have us discard Kroxa to the Davriel. Leyline of the Void, holy crap. Okay. That is irritating. It makes Priest pretty awful. We don't have a good answer to that, I don't think. We have Vanishing Verse. Yeah, and we have Despark, actually. We have answers. Alright. Well, I suppose I'm going to discard one of these lands then, and we're not going to cast Kroxa into that Leyline. We're just going to Lightning Helix Davriel. And I suppose play Priest.
Good luck with your little duel.
See, it feels weird playing the Priest into the Deafening Galarian, which honestly probably should have come out. And yeah, alright. Actually, the Priest does let us... I thought that this was like Rest in Peace. Oh well, now it effectively is. Okay. I didn't realize. I thought Leyline was going to exile everything. I just had a brain fart. Now obviously everything's gone. That's a good draw. Alright. So we're going to do that. I'm going to shock in the land, and I'm going to buy Gigantha here. Get that. Yeah, they did have the Libation. Okay. I still don't want to play the Croxa into the Leyline. I'll hold out for D-Spark or something like that, but I will hold the land in hand. If they have Go Blank, then I'll feel bad about that. Alright. Kavu's pretty good. Yeah. This Priest has been allowed to exist on the board for quite a while, so I feel like the Kavu probably will as well. At some point, they're going to draw Turgid. Yep. And we find Niv Mizzet. Okay, sweet. So I would love to find Niv Mizzet. I would love to play Niv Mizzet and have the ability to play D-Spark or Vanishing Verse. So let's start like this. White. Black. Blue. And I suppose we might as well. No, we need green. So that doesn't work. Okay, let's just... I want to keep these two untapped. Can I do that? Blue, green, black, white, red. Yeah, that'll work. Calling Ritual doesn't work. Maelstrom Pulse does, though, and Expressive Iteration does, too. So they're going to get one turn of Turgid in play. But we are going to be able to deal with this Leyline. I suppose we have one more look at... well, I don't want to discard... I don't want to discard with the Kavu with... Turgid in play, because they'll just get whatever we pitch. So we're just going to exile... I don't know. Davril? They go to 9. And yeah, I think I'm just playing another Kavu. Why not? So if they want to make me sacrifice something, I think I'm more than happy to... Oh, okay. So now they're gonna get... I don't know. They can have Edgar or they can have Croxa. Which one do you think they want? All right. They do go to 7. Oh, because of the Leyline. Okay, cool. So it just gets exiled. They don't get it back from Turgid. All right, that's kind of cute. Yeah. So this is just over. Yeah. I didn't realize the non-bow between these two cards. All right. Yeah. That's pretty cute. All right, I was much more worried than I needed to be there. Cool. On to the next one. Okay, on the play with a Kavu is usually good enough for me to keep. Vanishing Verse and Maelstrom Pulse, decent. Again, no matter what, they're just general purpose removal spells. This is fine. We'll keep this. Let's start with Triumph. And depending on what we see, we may or may not shock in the Steam Vents to play the Kavu. Mountain? Mountain go. So if I play the Kavu now, it'll be a 3-3. So it will dodge most of the 2 damage removal. And then we can play Steam Vents tapped Celestis following turn? Yeah. Oh, we can play it. Yeah. Not sure what I'm going to do the following turn yet, but I'm comfortable with Kavu being 3/3. Could be Spikefield Hazard, could be Play with Fire. So burn probably is... Oh, it's like, is it spells? Interesting. Okay. So now, like, Jwari Disruption is a possibility. Let's attack first, see what they do. I think I will discard Maelstrom Pulse. Doesn't feel like it'll be very good. Alright, so we can... What am I worried about? What kind of board wipes are we concerned about? They could have Anchor of the Gods, which won't hit either Kavu if I play it. That's going to be a ton of pressure next turn. They could have Jwari Disruption, which is another reason to play the Kavu. If they don't have Jwari Disruption or a counterspell, like Negate, and we play Celestis, then we will have 4 mana the following turn, which will let us Kavu plus Iteration. But I think I kind of like just putting the pressure on them and playing around Jwari Disruption. Consider. Okay, so this could just be Phoenix with a very slow draw. Yeah, that's what it seems to be. Okay. So Vanishing Verse, of course, pretty good against that. We don't have our white mana in play. So that would have been another reason to play the Celestis, to be able to have Vanishing Verse up. If we draw on tap land, we can probably still do that anyway. Wow, okay. Is our Kavu getting double pillared? Yeah, sure is. This is fine, right? The Kavu does pretty well here, taking out their Faithless Looting and their graveyard spells. Yeah. So, I think it's just the Celestis here? Yeah, okay. We'll get our planes in play as well. And hit their looting. Down to 11. And in comes the Celestis. Opt. Sure. To the top. Okay. I feel like Phoenix is probably a pretty good matchup for us. They probably don't have the tools in the main deck to prevent Niv Mizzet from resolving. Post-board, this will get harder when we have to deal with things like Mystical Disputes. But our cards are just like at a super high power level, and we have a surprising amount of interaction with the graveyards between the Kavu and the Vanishing Verses and Klothys as well. Some amount of tanking on the Expressive Iteration, probably doing some math, come to the conclusion that they are not going to be able to bring back a Phoenix this turn. In fact, they don't even have one in the graveyard. Okay. I'm going to start with an Expressive Iteration. We find Lightning Helix, which is great. Now, do I want another Kavu, or do I want Kroxa? How are we doing on cards in our graveyard? We're a long way off from that. I think I want the Kavu. So we'll take the Kavu to hand. Exile the Helix. Helix is going to hit the Darcy, because I don't want them using that to put a creature in the graveyard. And can I take them anywhere away from Delirium? Let's take... Let's take the Darcy, I think, to try to keep them away from Delirium as much as possible. If they have something like Unholy Heat, that's one possible way they can deal with the Kavu. And yeah. Play the Triumph. And you're at 6. I mean... Is it sad Dorat that has to stay home? Dorat does dodge Vanishing Verse, importantly. I don't think most Phoenix lists are running Fading Hope. Looting. Okay, so that's 2 spells. It was Dorat, Expressive Iteration, Looting, so not no way to get that Phoenix back. We'll attack with the Kavu, exile that Phoenix. Probably. We can also exile the Looting, and if the Phoenix comes back, we can Vanishing Verse it. That's not bad either. I think we start with... we're actually kind of... No, we have the Celestis. We're okay. I was going to say we have some mana issues. Niv Mizzet also quite good. Yeah. 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 So we're probably just trying to make sure that we don't die. If they don't get like a crazy turn with 4 Phoenixes, I don't think we can die. Also, Niv Mizzet's going to be there to block one of them. We have 2 attackers now. And a removal spell for anything that isn't multicolored. Wow. That might be the worst Niv I've ever seen. Okay. Hopefully it's still good enough. How close are they to Unholy Heat? They have land, sorcery, instant, but no creature. So they're still 1 away from Unholy Heat killing anything. And we were just at the point where we're going to just play 2 Kavus as well next turn at a minimum. So even though our Niv sucked, they were going to be under significant pressure. Now we have Promise, sure. So this will, if they find any Phoenixes, bring them back. But those Phoenixes can't get through the Niv by themselves, so they hit 1. And we are at 18, right? Like, even if they bring back all 3 Phoenixes, that's 9 points of damage, and then Dorat will have to get through for the other 9. And even in such a case, we can throw Niv under the Dorat bus. I mean, if they can recur 3 Phoenixes here, then I think we are in trouble. I just think that's unlikely. So some tanking on the iteration here. They've taken 1 to hand. So they probably have a line thought through. Another looting, okay. So Phoenix to hand looting it away. Dorat's going to grow. I'm a little scared. Okay, that's 2 Phoenixes that are coming back this turn. Can they put a 3rd one in there? Fading Hoping the Niv is not really something that they wanted to do, but now they have 3, 6, 14 damage. It's no joke. If we play Niv and find Lightning Helix, of course it's all for nothing. Yeah, Niv goes 10 deep to find it, so we're just going to start with that. Maelstrom Pulse does kill both Phoenixes. So, well, we can't cast it. We don't have the mana. Yeah, they're hanging tough. It's annoying. We could just be dead, I suppose. I'm going to loot away one of these Kavus. They want both of them in the graveyard? Okay. And I'm just going to hold up Vanishing Verse, I think. Yeah. If they have an answer to Niv, then we lose, which is actually pretty terrifying. Dorat dodging most of our removal sucks, and not being able to cast that Maelstrom Pulse that we hit also sucks. And they snapped this off, so I think we might actually be dead. It's one spell. Still one spell. We're dead. Right? Yeah, we're just dead. That really sucks. Answers just didn't quite line up. And if we had found Lightning Helix in those 10 cards, then we won. So that's a little annoying. But we actually no, we only had the one Lightning Helix anyway. Alright. So, what don't we like? I think Calling Ritual's pretty bad. I think Teferi's pretty bad. Dispute seems reasonable. I think I'll take a Kaya. The Crypt's obviously another Colossus is pretty good. Break Expectations also reasonable. I think better than Thoughtseize probably. I don't think I want 4 copies, or maybe any Thoughtseize, but I do want some hand interaction. The Exile clause from Break Expectations is relevant. D-Spark hits a Phoenix, so I guess you're in. Drown on the Lock seems good. Vanishing Verse was pretty mopey, but it does hit Phoenixes. Croxa, I think, is probably actively bad. Another Clarion probably to help mop up. Veto seems okay. I do miss Teferi turning off counterspells. That would have been nice. Yeah, I think this is okay. On the play, hands unkeepable. It's a little better. Keep this, put back a pulse, I guess. We do want to find untapped land. We want to find card advantage. We are quite naked. I'm just gonna Vanishing Verse that on site, I think. It's just too much of a threat. It lets them grow their graveyard too effectively, and I'm not gonna cast it next turn because I want to play the Celestas and hold up Dispute. Alright, so slightly concerned about like Negate, but we're not playing around that. Opt straight to the top. And we have Celestis, so Mystical Dispute will counter some of their worst excesses. I think I am happy to just get rid of this off the top. This deck just wants resources. There's some chance we screw them on land, but not much, given that they topped with the Opt so eagerly. Oh, break Expectation, that's outstanding. Let's start with that. Right? Right. They're at the point now where they could start bringing Phoenixes back. Casting Consider in response to the break Expectation is kind of weird, because I don't think I would have taken it. Wow, everything else has mana value 2 or less. Darcy probably would have been played. Is their hand just all lands? That would be a reason to fire off the Consider, I guess, because you're going to lose it anyway. No, you won't. I guess it could just be 1-drop spells, looting, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I'll buy Giganta. It's possible I should have shocked it in to bluff another Dispute, but I don't think they're going to play around it. I do have some regrets about that, about firing my Dispute off on their Expressive Iteration. We are super low on cards. It's kind of weird. Where'd they all go? They didn't have much in the way of, like, actual card advantage. I guess they haven't really done anything. Everything has been more or less card neutral, and all they've been doing is building their graveyard. So there's a Phoenix in the bin. That's a pretty good draw. Nice. So we knew that a lot of these cards were not Dispute, just from our previous Hand hate spell. So not much in that deck other than Dispute counters Niv. Some of them are running Ether Gust. So looting for 3. If we draw untapped land, then next turn we have Clarion, lifelinking up Niv, killing their Phoenixes, getting in for a bunch, and then Colossus. And they've been a Dispute, so they're digging desperately for an answer to Niv. Or they have another one in hand already, but I don't think you would. Alright, Unholy Heat. So that's going to bring back the Phoenixes, or one of them anyway. That's pretty good. Yeah. We'll just slam this Colossus. They probably do not have a good answer to it. And do I just want to kill this Phoenix now? It probably just comes back, realistically. So I will probably just say go. And try to kill it during combat. Or even kill it on their end step so that we can exile it with the Colossus on our upkeep. Of course, if they have several Phoenixes that they're able to recur this turn, we could just Clarion or Maelstrom Pulse. Depends what they do. There's Dorat. So Dorat will not outgrow the Clarion this turn. Probably. Also dies to drown on the block. But I think we're just... Yeah, I think we're just casting Clarion, holding it around the block. Lightning Heat looks also quite good. We'll target looting, I think. Yeah, they have Delirium well in hand, so we'll just take their spells. We have Lightning Helix, we have Drown in the Lock. I don't think too much can go wrong. I suppose they could have Niv Mizzet, like the 6-mana Niv Mizzet. Yeah, and if they can't recur a bunch of Phoenixes all in one turn, then Colossus is just going to take over the game. Expressive Iteration, good. I did consider countering it. Countering it makes their life easier returning a Phoenix to the battlefield if they have counter spells in hand, because that counts as a spell they could cast pre-combat. Darcy. Not sure what to do about Darcy. We'll see. Are they able to bring back a Phoenix or not? Drown in the Lock will always deal with it. Okay, so no Phoenix. Sure. Now I'm willing to do this. Sure. So that probably would have been the third spell to bring back the Phoenix. They kept that on top. Whatever, they surveilled. Let's get that Phoenix out of there. I think I want to keep the instant speed removal up, so I think I'm down to just Maelstrom Pulse. We could also just let it go to night and filter away this Celestis we have. But I think this Darcy's a threat. Gust. Not sure whether to put that on top or bottom. Do I want to draw it again? Probably. It's just a removal spell. Yeah, sure. We have an answer to the Phoenix if it comes back. Land to the bin, sure. to the bin. Okay. I will take 3. Again, it's going to be this Maelstrom Pulse's job to deal with this Channeler. I want to keep the Lightning Helix available. And is there anything that there's only one of? They have instant creature, land, sorcery, and an artifact. I mean, I guess we're taking the artifact to try to take them off of Delirium, although I'm not optimistic. Let's try this again. All right. To the top. Oh my god, it's back again. Another Darcy. Okay, so kind of wanted that Maelstrom Pulse now. Alright, that's pretty good too. Yeah, so they have how many lands in the bin? 1, 2, 3, 4. And I don't want the mana particularly either. I guess we're going to try to take them off of creatures. No, we're going to put 2 more creatures in the bin. How many sorceries do they have? 1, 2, 3. Alright. How about now? Do you have a way to save your Darcys with that last card in hand? No. Okay. Land. Finally get to throw away the Celestis. More than happy to do that. Yeah, I think our plan is still to get rid of their sorceries. If we play this, we have 1 mana left over if we play Giganta. Probably is just Catacomb, hold up Lightning Helix and cycle the land. Could also flip it today, I guess. And that still leaves the Lightning Helix available. If we tap right. Sure, I like that. I think I'll just pitch this land. Say go. Flips tonight. Let's do this again. Not sure what these could be. Probably just more land. More sorceries. Run it back. This tap doesn't make sense. So I want red. So this has to remain untapped, which would take us off of Drown in the Loch, actually. Alright. I don't want to be taken off of Drown in the Loch. I want to be able to counter a, I want to be able to counter a Finale of Promise, if they find it. So these cards are lands or, these cards are lands or counter spells. They would have just jammed Phoenixes, I think. They're probably going to turn it today, which means we'll get the loot again with the Celestis. Ox of Agonis is another one that I definitely want to counter. But they have so much mana just to be able to cast it over and over again. That's a pretty good one, honestly. So I think this is actually going to touch the board. And we'll kill it with the Helix on end step and exile it with the Colossus. They're going to have to discard 2. Let's see, how many Phoenixes did they draw off of that Ox? One? One is okay. To the top. Phoenix is coming back. Yeah, I mean... I think I'm just taking 3 from this Phoenix. Because I don't want to kill it, then have them... Like, I'm definitely exiling the Ox, right? With the Clothis. And I don't want to give them a window to bring back the Phoenix away from the Clothis, and I don't have a way to put it back in the graveyard. So I think this is fine. I think I am taking 3. And I think I'd rather use the Helix than the Drown on the Ox. Also, it's not a blue spell, so it plays around Dispute. That's honestly also really good. Yeah, I mean, if we drown the Lock the Phoenix and Tormod's Crypt, we would have to Tormod's Crypt this turn because we don't want to let them cast their stuff from their graveyard. So we would have to tap out, like, have to go to 0 cards in hand. But that does seem really good. It gets rid of all of their progress, and we find D-Spark. That's sweet. Well, let's exile Ox, I guess. Yeah, and Clothis is just going to get the job done if they don't kill us. I'm just going to do this. And I guess there's no reason to exile now. Yeah, sure. Because I'm fine if they cast the looting from the graveyard. That's okay. Because anything they would put in the bin, we could just exile with the Tormod's Crypt after that. Yeah, I think I like the sideboard plan. Yeah, I like it. Double Clothis, all we need is the red mana to cast it. If we find any land at all, then the Celestis will provide that red land. Yeah, I'm gonna keep. Especially on the draw. That'll do it. Okay. So probably start with... I honestly don't think it matters all that much. Sacred Foundry is going to produce red and white, which will cast the Dovin's Veto, so I guess I want the blue if for some reason I want to shock in and cast the Dovin's Veto, but I can't imagine. I think it's more likely that we will shock in on 3 and play one of our 3-drops. And just take turn 2 off. Tap land, go. We like that. Yeah, I think the plan stays the same. Just get the tap land out of the way. If we play Celestis, then the following turn we'll be able to play Clothis plus Veto, but I think, truth be told, I just want to get the Clothis down. Ooh. That's a problem. They get to draw every time they attack with this, and we don't have a good way to stop it. Or even to block it. And Clarion doesn't kill it. Wow, that's pretty good against us. Let's get Clothis down before they can counter it, though. And we'll need to find a way to kill that. What do we have? Helix doesn't do it. I guess Drown of the Lock does it. Vanishing Verse does it. D-Spark doesn't do it. We can block it with Niv. Wow, okay, I wasn't expecting this card, but it's quite good against us specifically. Find Dorat, are they able to cast it? Doesn't look like it. Maybe, though, if this is untapped land off the top. Okay. There's some way... It's possible that, like, Clarion plus something will be able to deal with it. Let's start with Iteration. If you want to counter it, then go nuts, I guess. Kavu. Kavu blocks it. Yeah, so this is going to be... Maelstrom Pulse just straight up kills it, but we can't cast it. I think I like... Can we cast the Kavu? We can. Okay, so Dispute to hand. Maelstrom Pulse to library, Kavu to exile. Shock in the Foundry. Play the Kavu. I suppose... Yeah, I guess it doesn't actually matter. I suppose I should have played the Crypt first. In case they have Unholy Heat. But they're nowhere near Delirium right now, so I guess it doesn't actually matter all that much. And we'll say go. They showed us Fading Hope, which I'm sure they would have cast if they had it. So their options for dealing with Kavu without Unholy Heat with Delirium are limited. They probably want to force us to crack this Crypt. There goes a Phoenix. It's one spell cast. If we untap, we're probably in pretty good shape. That's two spells. And that's three spells. Alright, so we're going to combat here. I think I'm fine just cracking this Crypt, especially given that we have another one lurking in the deck. It also hits a looting, gets them farther away from Delirium. This is okay. They can throw this to its death if they want to do that. I don't think it matters which one of these. And now we can Celestis plus another Kavu, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, so I think the play is just going to be Kavu loot away our extra Clothis. And this will work, yep. And they're under, all of a sudden, an enormous amount of pressure. It's not impossible, of course, to put 3 Phoenixes in the bin and almost kill us here, but seems unlikely to work. Dorat will die to the Clarion. The Kavus are going to get life-linked up. Svalin is going to have to block. Sure. So there's no way that... I guess that they could have, like, Pact of Negation or a 0-mana spell. I don't know, this seems pretty grim for them. I think, yeah, Consider's just a better opt. We'll get rid of that. And this is going to get pretty nasty. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty, that's a pretty uncomfortable spot for them to be in. Yeah, definitely, I feel this matchup is quite good. Truth be told. Our removal spells didn't line up perfectly in game 1. We still got them to 1, and then I think games 2 and 3 were pretty convincing. Okay, on to the next one. Okay. Pretty awkward opening hand. We have 5 lands, but no green to cast the Kavu. And so the only way to cast the Kavu, which we want to do, is to draw a green land, which we don't really want to do when we have 5 lands in hand. I'm going to mull this. I think we can do better, and indeed we did. We'll keep this. Colossus is just really hard for some of these decks to answer. So is Kavu, frankly. But I think I would rather have the first Colossus rather than the second Kavu. And Niv is obviously a good way to refill our hand when we're on a mulligan. Up against some sort of Dimir deck, Thoughtseize is going to be tough. They probably take Colossus here, I would think. The black decks probably will not have a hard time dealing with Kavu, but they will have a hard time dealing with Colossus. If they don't take Colossus here, then it probably indicates that they have another hand hate spell. Okay, so that's good news for us as things go. Yeah, so let's get... I suppose I want this in play in case I draw Thoughtseize. Alright, looks like we're up against Esper Control. They do have another Thoughtseize. And they shocked in the Hallowed Fountain. I wonder what that means. I would think you take Niv. Okay, so if you're not taking Niv there, then you probably either have a counterspell ready to deal with it, or you have another hand hate spell to kill Niv. Yeah, I don't have a problem. Just I suppose getting the tap land out of the way lets us curve 4/5 to ferry into Niv. Having Giganta in hand is not super relevant. Alright, I think I've talked myself into playing this tap land. Teferi will at least force out an answer. Because even though he doesn't turn off counterspells anymore, he does turn off counterspells on our turn. And we're just, I think, going to cash into Teferi for a card while we can. Another Niv is pretty good. So if Teferi lives, we are assured that Niv will resolve. Unless they have that crab, I guess. The channel crab that counters a spell. Ashiok can minus Teferi, if that's what he decides he wants to do. It's probably better than... Alright, I want to exile a land, I'm just not sure which. White, red, black, blue. We need green? Okay, so we have green. And I think we're more into the... Yeah. So this will allow us to cast Niv. Niv for days. And against these Esper Control decks, or Control decks in general, just resolving Niv is such a house. Although Niv drawing 1, which has happened to me twice in this video so far, leaves something to be desired. But if they don't have an answer to Niv, then, I mean, I guess that works. They did not leave blue untapped. So, we do not fear Mystical Dispute. The Ashiok 2/3s are not so bad. Alrighty then. We can slam Teferi. Bounce the 2/3. I don't see a reason to do that when we know Niv is going to resolve, though. They have something. Mana Tithe? No Mana Tithe. I would have screamed. Yeah, I mean, I guess these are cards. Something to exile to Ashiok. Crocs is not bad either. Against these counter magic decks, you know, the escape recursive spells can be pretty good. Next turn we can, if we draw untapped land, we can Teferi, Clarion, hit Ashiok. All of that's pretty good. Seems unlikely that the Esper Control player has made it to turn 6 without drawing or casting a counterspell. Is Niv dead? Niv's dead, but in a pretty expensive way. Okay, so... I think we're just jamming him again, realistically. We know he's going to resolve. I just want to get my value off of him while I can. So we can't cast anything. We do have to discard something. Vanishing Verse seems pretty mopey against them, doesn't it? Everything's multicolored. You have another kill spell for my Niv. That is the question. You sure do. Commit is not one that they wanted to use on him, though. Oh, I guess that makes sense. They can exile him with the tokens. That's kind of cute. And search for his Kanta. So, like, we do at some point need to worry about Narset plus memory. Search for his Kanta isn't going to flip yet. Unless we cast Kroxa, which I don't particularly want to do. So I think the plan here is just going to be... Can we just double Kroxa? If we do, then Azkanta's gonna flip, which doesn't really appeal to me. I think I like Teferi. I think Teferi Clarion. And we can't counter the Azkanta on the way back down, but we could Maelstrom Pulse it. Let's see what we draw. Kavu. And these things are going to have to die. We'll see if Ashiok Minus is on the Teferi. They may have to. We do have Drown in the Lock to counter memory if they cast it as well. Although it'll be close. It is... They only have 5 cards in the bin. Okay. There's search. Do you have an answer for Teferi? Because if you don't, then Ashiok is going to die.
Creeping, thieving progeny.
The castle's annoying too, in these control matchups. Alright, so Teferi lives. They still only have 5 cards in the bin. Somehow we're missing land drops. We have 8 cards in hand. So Maelstrom Pulse is 100% getting cast here, but let's start with Iteration, I think, in case we hit land. Or are we just playing Maelstrom Pulse, Kavu Kavu? That seems pretty good, too. Also, Maelstrom Pulse the search, I guess, but then it's our only answer to Ashiok, and I want to get this done while I know it'll resolve. Oh, shoot, I shouldn't have done this. Alright, well, forget it. Now search is going to flip. I don't have a great way to deal with that. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm just going to play the Kavu, I think. And hold up Drown in the Lock. Flipping Azkanta is a really big deal. With Teferi in play, it's not as bad. Because the pattern... Whoa, they kept on top rather than flip Azkanta. Yeah, that is A-okay. Is it? If not, then they wheel with memory. Yeah, okay. Which we can't allow. There goes another Niv.
Don't make another move.
And so I think the name of the game is just going to be to cash in as many of these... Okay, never mind. I was going to say cash in as many of these cards as possible. To make the eventual memory better. So now, they didn't flip his console last time. We don't have a great... They can flip it at will, is the problem.
I've got time.
I should not have played my land if I'm going to cast this iteration, right? We can Croxa... We can double Croxa. Shit. I should not have played my land. We can Croxa Kavu, right? That'll take 1, 2, 3, 4 red mana. We have that. There goes Doomscar, okay. I don't think it matters what we keep. Alright, so Escanta's gonna flip. Nothing we can do about it. But, this is a raw card off the top of the library. And we have to Fairy in play. Okay, so now, they need like a board wipe. They can't find it. Memory Deluge not as good as it looks. Because Crox is going to make them discard some of it. We can probably hit some Thoughtseizes, etc. off of the expressive iterations. We can even cast those in their draw step if we want. Alright, so we'll start properly this time with expressive iteration. Drown in the Lock I think is great. I'm going to put back a Maelstrom Pulse, I think, and just exile this Croxa. We'll make them discard as many things as possible before we attack with the Kavu. We're at 10. Alright, so we'll expressive iteration, I suppose. Another Kavu's okay. Missing land again. Okay. I probably want the Kavu. More than I want the Celestis. We'll swing. And I'm going to exile their Deluge. There goes Narset. That would have been a good one. They have to block something. Alright. So they have a random card off the top. They have a draw with Escanta.
Don't worry.
And we have a Drown in the Lock, which will counter anything in their deck. So, feeling pretty good. And we got there. Nice. Yeah, so other than that brief misstep with the expressive iterations, I think that went reasonably well. Did we see any graveyard interaction with them? Not precisely. They are running Extinction Event. March of Otherworldly Light, I guess, does exile Croxa. We didn't see any graveyard stuff of their own. Obviously, Dispute's very good, Veto's very good. It's very difficult to imagine that they're not playing Teferi. We need more answers for Ashiok, I think, or at least I would like. Despark seems good. I think I'm into Bloodchief's Thirst. I am a fan of Colossus in the matchup. I think that's probably good. Vanishing Verse seems kind of mopey. I think I'm willing to cut those. Lightning Helix. Helix is one of our only Boros spells. Culling Ritual is more expensive and doesn't lifelink our stuff, but it does hit Search for Escanta. I think I would prefer Culling Ritual to Deafening Clarion. Fairy's great at blocking off counter spells, so really just one cut here. What should it be? It's probably Maelstrom Pulse. Now that we've brought in the Blood Chief's Thirst and the counter spells. Edgar is not really a threat to them. Priest is interesting. I think I'm into the Priest, honestly. Just cut the other Maelstrom Pulse. Just like a way to jam through Niv. If Niv resolves, then we probably just win. I don't think I want... I'm okay with it, the second Colossus, right? Yikes. That is a hand of magic cards. We cannot keep this. Ugh. Nothing is castable. I guess Crocs is castable. Keep and... Veto's too good. Expressive Iteration's great on a mulligan. Croxa is one of our recursive threats. Celestis helps ramp us into the Niv we eventually find. It's probably Kavu, just because they're gonna... Like, they're still gonna be packing removal spells. They can't get rid of it all. Alright. And there's the Niv. And we're probably just raw dogging the Croxa, I would think. I actually... I don't really want Narset to resolve. If I shock in that Foretold card, is it Behold the Multiverse or is it Saw It Coming? If it's Behold, then I don't really want to be holding up Veto. They'll just say go. Endotha Triome gives me... Actually, it still doesn't cast Expressive Iteration, which is awkward. Alright, I think this is the plan, and the idea is going to be to get the Celestis down. And if they want to counter my Celestis, then sure, you got it. There's Narset, yeah.
Those who cannot perceive beyond the veil of light, meditate and prepare.
Narset whiffs, though. We like that. And let's get the Celestis down before they can do anything about it. And then untapped land most likely lets us cast Niv.
With thoughtfulness before action.
If we want to. There's Ashiok. We probably don't want to cast Niv, honestly. Because I would like to have Veto available for their Planeswalker. We will loot away the Celestis, though. Thank you very much. Oh, shit. Forgot Narset did that to our draws off the Celestis. That is annoying. Okay. Frustrating. Let's see if we can... and doing this takes down the Veto shields? Brutal. But they might let it resolve. Alright. I think I just want the lands. Take the swamp, put away the Kavu, and shock in the steam vents. And say go. But I am deeply concerned. I feel very behind. Yeah, Deluge I think is just going to happen because I don't want to allow them to resolve a 5-mana Planeswalker. Shock in. Just slam Ashiok, why not? Okay, so slamming Ashiok here gets vetoed. We are going to cast our own Niv. Yeah, we're just gonna slam Niv, and I want to play the swamp first, so if I hit Thoughtseize or something, then I guess it didn't matter. Yeah, I should have played the Triome. Anyway, all of these are excellent. We do have the Helix to deal with the Narset now. one assumes that they have an answer for Niv now that it's resolved. Teferi probably makes the most sense given how the game has gone. Because they just slammed that Ashiok into a shocked Steam Vents. You would think they have another Ashiok or 5-mana Planeswalker. No, they have Doomscar. Okay. D-Spark's not bad. Yeah, so now we are paying for my mistake. Alright, we're going to try Teferi here. I can't imagine he resolves. Archmage's Charm? Do we fight back? They do need to answer him somehow. He doesn't really accomplish much with Narset in play yet, but we do have Lightning Helix, and he does make sure Lightning Helix resolves. And we have D-Spark to deal with anything that gets down under our counter magic. Okay. And we'll just plus.
Show remorse. I'll show. No, I am not making this up as I go.
Flipping a day is nice. Happening on their turn means that we will actually get to draw. Thoughtseize is outstanding. It's too bad we don't have the mana to cast it in their, excuse me, in their draw step. Culling Ritual seems pretty mopey at this point in the game. We do get to draw step Thoughtseize them. That is pretty sweet. Another Narset, okay.
There are so many mysteries to uncover.
That's kind of fine, honestly. That,
Keep an open mind.
is like we light. It's like making sure we don't need to Lightning Helix the Narset. Okay, so we can either we know they have Archmage's Charm. That's going to be a Thoughtseize target. We have Lightning Helix to deal with Narset. I kind of All right, so the sequencing is probably I think the sequencing is kill Narset, bounce Search, Thoughtseize them, Croxa them. Yeah. They have no blue available. The sequencing matters because we need to make sure we draw off this Teferi. Niv is outstanding. We can't cast him yet? Oh, yes we can. We can. But if Teferi stays in play, then Niv is going to resolve anyway, and I really don't think I want to deal with Azcanta flipping. Shark Typhoon is also pretty surprisingly irritating, actually. I honestly think it's Shark Typhoon. And now we can Croxa them once and Kabu. Sure. They probably pitched the land, I would think, but they take damage for that. And it makes our future Croxas better. Slam Kabu. It's immune to Archmage's Charm. And they're going to have to find an answer for him. And I do want all my mana in play. So this game looked pretty out of hand early, but them slamming their Planeswalker into us on turn 5, I think, gave us new life. Teferi's so good in this matchup. And they had to use all their blue to draw there, so now they can't even redeploy their search, probably. Yeah, this feels great. We have 7, 8 mana. If we draw another one, then we can probably Croxa plus Niv. Alright, never mind. That's pretty good. Not gonna lie. Yeah. So first things first, we'll attack here, and I'm going to exile their Deluge. And we can either Thoughtseize them in their draw step, or do it now when they're tapped out. So Teferi doesn't stop them from countering it if they untap their mana in their draw step, so there is some risk that they could counter it and then jam something. Yeah, let's just do this now. Alright, so this is probably a land. Ashiok. Do I care about Ashiok? No, he just dies to the Kavu. So let's just take this as Kanta. If you want your little artifact, you can have it. You got it. This makes me wish I had done it in their draw step. But there was no way to know that this wasn't a counterspell. Alright, well, plus Teferi. And I suppose we just buy Giganta. Why not? Gives us something to loot away to the Kavu, if nothing else. "38 cards in the library, so they are a long way off of milling us. Okay. So March and presumably Ashiok. Okay. So Ashiok's gonna live. We do need to now find an answer for that. However, if we find Niv Mizzet off the top, Expressive Iteration off the top, those are all pretty good. Instead, we find land. Now we can Celestis it tonight, I guess, if we want. To send away this Giganta, but I think instead I just want to cycle it manually. Alright, that's kind of tilting. Let's minus Teferi, get our value in. Find Expressive Iteration, sure. We can either play the Giganta here, which is a threat that they must deal with. They can always block with that cave, I guess. In fact, Teferi's probably dead to that cave if we don't. Yeah, okay. I want to do this. And this. And we'll cast Expressive Iteration on the following turn. And if they power up the cave to attack Teferi, then... oh boy.
Trust me.
That was a pretty good draw. Probably would have done that after minusing Ashiok, because I don't really care about Giganta. I don't want to redraw it. Yikes. So we want to find like Bloodchief's Thirst or something here, or Niv, Yeah, so Expressive Iteration will go to hand. Niv will go to exile. We have 5 mana. I think I just want to keep this as an option to draw with, right? And this is just going to be a slugfest for the rest of the game.
I've got it.
20 cards in the library.
Hurry.
And not much left in the way of gas. The Niv mana base doesn't really allow for manlands to be able to attack down these planeswalkers. Drown the Lock doesn't hit them. We do have a bit of a soft spot to those. So what's left in the deck? We have 1 Kavu, 1 more Niv, and a Dream. Actually, we know that we know we have a Kavu on top. That's cute. Do I want to draw and loot away this land? I think I do. Because it gets us closer to Kroxa. Another Niv. Okay. So what do? I think Teferi is still the most pressing threat. We have a Drown in the Lock for Doomscar. I think we can deploy to the board without concern. They power up the cave preemptively. Why did I not get the ability to drown that in the lock? Let's hold full control, see if I can. I still think it's Teferi. Okay. And it's just going to be Kroxa you. I shouldn't have done that. Because now they can exile the Kroxa with the Ashiok. Yeah, that was a punt. Let's see if I can find a counterspell. Thoughtseize is pretty good. Sure. Let's take the Thoughtseize to hand. Exile a land. Kavuya. Land ya. And then in your upkeep, I think now I do not want to, because I'm concerned about cards in library. Let's let you draw your card. Thoughtseize ya. Okay. And hopefully they don't have a board wipe. Committing the Niv back is kind of okay. Nine cards in library. Yeah. Do I care about Ashiok? They can make us draw 7 with the memory, which is kind of cool. So we actively don't want, because Niv isn't a May, right? I think we can actually, like, decline to draw with Niv, though. Because we can just choose. Like, we don't have to, Oh, no, we do. Shit. Okay, that's kind of tricky. Oh, but when we attack, we get to mill away the memory. Okay, that's not so bad. Yeah, let's just do this. Play around single target removal. And now they can't make us draw 7. And I don't think Niv actually hits anything at this point anyway. Yeah. Yeah. All in.
Here we go.
Can you board wipe me or not? Commit to memory doesn't do it. By itself, power word kill doesn't do it. Do you have 2? You have 2 kill spells. What's left in the deck? Nothing, but it doesn't matter. Nice. All right. And that's why Ashiok is just not all that great a card. Like, we were able to just ignore him. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's 3 wins. I love this deck so much. And by the way, feel free to check out my Twitter. The giveaway of the secret lair with this lovely Chun-Li playmat and 9 others is still live. So go over to Twitter, follow me, Ultra Pro, like and subscribe below, and I will come back at some point in the next week with another video. I love all you guys. I will see you next time. Bye.